Look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. We are raised in a culture that equates a locked, unblinking gaze with respect, confidence, and above all, honesty. We are taught that if you look away, you are hiding something. If you look down, you are weak. If your eyes dart around, you are guilty. But you know the quiet, exhausting truth of this expectation. You know what it feels like to force a stare just to make someone else comfortable, while inside, your train of thought is completely derailing. You can remember the exact moments in your life, sitting in a classroom or in a high-stakes job interview, where you had to choose between actually listening or performing the act of listening. You compromised your own mental clarity just to project an illusion of attentiveness. You sacrificed your internal peace to avoid being labeled as disconnected. The sheer weight of holding someone's gaze felt like a physical pressure on your chest. You reached a breaking point, realizing that trying to connect was tearing your nervous system apart. But what if your instinct to look away is completely backward from what society claims? According to counterintelligence studies from the FBI, the people who stare you down without blinking are often the ones you need to worry about. When a seasoned manipulator lies, they engage in the predator stare. They lock eyes, checking to see if you are buying their deception. Meanwhile, an honest person trying to recall a specific detail will almost always break eye contact, looking up or to the side. This brings us to the science of cognitive load. A fascinating study out of Kyoto University revealed that maintaining eye contact uses the exact same pool of cognitive resources as complex verbal processing. Think of your brain like a computer with a limited amount of RAM. Eye contact requires you to process facial microexpressions, emotional states, and social hierarchy. When asked a difficult question, your brain's CPU spikes. To prevent a system crash, your brain automatically cuts the video feed. You stare at a blank wall to free up bandwidth. I have found, time and time again in my research, that society routinely punishes its deepest thinkers simply because their cognitive processing doesn't look like a Hollywood movie. We mistake a blank stare for an empty mind, when in reality, that person is building an architectural blueprint of a thought right in front of us. This mechanism goes far deeper than processing information. Avoiding eye contact is a profound biological defense against emotional flooding. We have to look at the gaze aversion effect and the amygdala, the primitive cluster in your brain responsible for detecting threats. For highly sensitive people, direct eye contact triggers the amygdala exactly like a physical threat would. Locking eyes is an intense exchange of energy. For someone who naturally absorbs the emotions of others, it feels like opening a massive floodgate. You aren't just seeing their pupils, you are feeling their unexpressed judgment and heavy expectations. It is a sensory avalanche. If you look away when a conversation gets heavy, it is because you care too much. You are feeling everything so intensely that you must look away to regulate your nervous system. In my analysis of human attachment and the default mode network, I have come to realize that what we casually dismiss as shifty eyes is actually a highly evolved emotional radar. Your brain detects an overwhelming surge of interpersonal data and initiates a protective protocol. It is your mind's way of saying the windows to your soul are open, but you need to draw the curtains for a second so you do not burn out. We must also acknowledge the delicate nuance of personal space and the equilibrium theory of intimacy. Every human being has a hardwired tolerance for closeness. This theory suggests we manage intimacy through a subconscious equation involving physical distance and eye contact. Standing across a large room, we can hold eye contact without feeling threatened. But step into a crowded elevator packed mere inches away from strangers, and you immediately look at the floor. You instinctively avoid eye contact because the physical proximity has maxed out your intimacy threshold. Adding direct eye contact to that extreme closeness would spike the intimacy level to outright terrifying. When someone avoids looking at you, they are not being evasive. They are recalibrating the balance of safety and protecting their boundaries. This brings us to a massive, often ignored reality: the neurodivergent perspective. For millions on the autism spectrum or with ADHD, eye contact is not just awkward. It induces severe physical sensory overload. Neuroimaging studies from the National Institutes of Health prove that, for certain neurodivergent brains, eye contact causes massive overactivation in the parietal and prefrontal cortices. Imagine someone shining a blinding flashlight into your eyes while demanding you solve a complex math equation. It causes dizziness, cognitive confusion, and a rapid spike in cortisol. I honestly believe the modern corporate obsession with forced eye contact is a subtle form of sensory discrimination. We force brilliant minds to perform a neurotypical pantomime, draining the energy they could use to solve our greatest problems. If a neurodivergent person is looking at your shoulder or doodling, they are actively removing visual distractions to process your words with crystal clarity. This is a highly refined, data-driven cognitive operating system. Furthermore, we must strip away our ethnocentric biases. In many cultures around the world, prolonged eye contact with a superior is viewed as a direct challenge or profound disrespect. Lowering your eyes is a stoic, honorable sign of deference. We must redefine this behavior entirely. Looking away is not an act of isolation. It is the act of finding sanctuary. It is a retreat into the fortress of the mind to gather the right words, to honor the weight of the conversation, and to protect the integrity of the self. If you have spent a lifetime struggling with eye contact, I want you to hear this clearly. Stop beating yourself up. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are not broken and you are not hiding. You possess a brain that prioritizes deep, authentic processing over superficial social performance. That is a superpower. If you still feel the pressure to conform in high-stakes environments, use the triangle method, rotating your gaze between their eyes and mouth. It mimics the connection without the devastating intensity. But never forget that your instinct to look away is a sign of a high-functioning mind protecting its peace. In a world obsessed with surface-level appearances, perhaps the most profound connection we can experience isn't about staring intensely into each other's eyes. Maybe true connection is about standing side by side, looking outward, and facing the world in the exact same direction. If you found value in this deep dive, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We are building a community here at Deep Psyche Decode that values the truth behind human behavior, not just the myths. Let me know in the comments below. Do you find it hard to think while looking someone in the eye? Or do you trust people more when they stare you down? I read every single comment. Until next time, keep decoding.